Continuing on then with the series I'm doing on how to make a Gothic style gauntlet, I've got to this stage now. So all I've done since the last film is attach this back plate and its knuckle to this lame. It's the same process that I've shown on an earlier video where I showed how to attach that lame to that plate there, so I didn't feel there was much need in repeating it. So it's exactly the same process at this stage. They're just riveted with a hole, there's no sliding rivets or anything. What I'm going to concentrate on in this video is this plate here. So this is a plate that the fingers are attached to in various different ways. It's got all manner of names. The one I tend to hear is rider plate, but what it lets you do is it adds, in this case, a little bit of extra articulation in here. You see them in 14th century stuff, all the remains of them. You often get two little holes on the sides of the gauntlets about here, where the likelihood is that's where the fingers were once attached through various methods. But in this case it's exposed. It's large enough to see when it's extended. It closes nicely because that's where it's going to be when you're going to be doing your fighting. So the whole thing works quite well inside there, and when this is all loosened off you'll gain that articulation as well, so the knuckle will move and the fingers can move. So let's take a look at how I got from this to this. What I've done then is I've drawn on vaguely what I'm going to cut and file away shortly onto this piece, so I can see where I need to sight this hole here. So this will be for the little finger of the right hand, will be running out in this direction. Next I've taken my plate. In this case this is some 18 gauge I think. You can use 20, depends on what materials you're using and what you're planning on using it for, but that's where we're at. And I've put it quite a ways up there, so you've got to think the knuckle plate will be sat across with that hole I just showed you there. So it'll be exposed but only a small bit, and then as it articulates you'll see more of this material, hence we've got so much of it going up here. But when your hand is flat it won't cut your knuckles because it will move up with the knuckles and not catch them. So that's what we've got there. And the first stage is quite straightforward. What I've got to do is start to marry that curve with this plate. So once you've got that through, that plate is bent, you just mark it up with that one. You can see I'm not bothered about accuracy at this stage, just want to be able to fix that plate to that plate with a fixing. Nice and straightforward. So all I've done is bent this bit here, get it out of the way. That's not where it's going to end up, so just putting a gentle curve. Throughout all of these marks and things we're going to do with the stake, don't put them in too hard first of all, because they might need to be moved. You're just giving an impression of where they need to go. So what I'm doing is I'm figuring out when it's reasonably open, so that would be open, that would be closed, somewhere in there, making sure I'm keeping it as straight as I can, not taking it off at some weird angle. Mark that first point. Like I say, this is not going to be accurate at all. Okay, and then we're going to use this stake to put that line in. I've swapped my stake about here because I'm not paying attention. Hang on. There we go, that's a bit better. So what I've got to do is I want to put a bit of a crease along this one. I want to leave that curvature because the knuckles curved there, the creases only pick up around here. And this is the awkward one. And what you're going to do is just knock in some of that crease. Now it might be that you've got to give it a few taps this side, but keep them gentle. There we go. That should get us started. We offer this back up and we'll see how we're doing. So there we go, there's our crease that we've just started to put in. Now remember, this is not going to sit loosely like this. This is where you've got to put some effort into it. It's going to sit in quite tight along these. Don't worry about these, we haven't got to them yet, but it's this one. You can see he's still riding off a little bit here. So just get it over. I've got that lined up then, we've got him in, our crease is more or less on where we need it to be, but we're not too bothered if it is or isn't accurate at this stage. We're just getting the metal to be able to move out of the way so we can fit the piece together. I've put that bend back in, and I'm pushing and using the stake to see how much of a closure I've got here, and I can see, looking at the screen there, there's still quite a bit. So I'd normally do this on the anvil face down here, but just to save messing with the camera, we do get upside down, pinch it where it needs to be, get something like this one, a nice chisely stake, chisely hammer, something like that, just tap it. Don't need to be accurate at this stage, you just want to get that across, and that is absolutely spot on, exactly where we need it to be. So remembering to keep that straight, that bit there, we don't want it at some weird angle like that. We want to keep the 2 points at either end more or less straight. Our next little crease is going to be in here, but it's going to be on the underside. So we take it apart, we mark the line, we knock it in. Again, I wouldn't normally use this stake, but it's just here, so let's make it, see if we can make it work. What I'm looking to do is just pull that over gently. I'm not looking to crush that in, just teasing that across a bit. Just like that. And you can see what we're starting to do is mimic that shape even more. We mark the next one, put it in, mark the next one, put it down, and we make our way across to the end, just doing exactly what I've done. So I'll get that done and then we'll pick up after that. On the whole, that's all there is to it. You can see how our plate is starting to take shape. Still got lots of unsightly gaps, but we'll get rid of those in a bit. I've just stopped before I get onto this last one here. What I'm going to do is spend a bit of time just marrying these down a bit so the size is closer to the finished piece. So get it supported and work it down. This will make sure that this is wide enough to fill that, and we don't do anything wrong over here. Last one. There we go. Make sure it's lining up. Give it a twist if it's getting a bit out of shape. There. And there, we should get a nice movement out of that. I'm just going to push that now a bit further into that one. A bit tricky on this stake, but we'll see where we end up. Save swapping everything around. Phrase about bad workmen blaming their tools. Right, I'm more or less happy with that, so I'm going to drop a hole in this top plate, this knuckle plate here, to marry with that one, and to make sure then I've got something to put that into there, and we're good to go. Right, so I've worked that into there a little bit more, so I'm satisfied that it's just about where it's going to need to be. And again, I just want to make sure, it doesn't matter where so much in that articulate movement it's at, whether it's closed or open, what I want is to make sure it's square. See, that wouldn't be square, got material here, that would be. So find where it wants to go, down there, push that and driving that stake up into there, so I've got plenty of material. Make a mark. In a second I'll check that's more or less the same distance from the edge as the other one. And when I drill my hole, I'm going to push it that way, about 1/2 mil, so that I can make sure I'm pulling plenty of material into this mechanism. Back from drilling the holes in, so like I say, all I've done is I've drilled that hole there. I've checked the distance from the base to the base of the hole was about the same as this one. On bits like this, you can be within 1 mil or so, and if it looks a bit ugly when it's here, you can shave it off, so it's a bit better, but it doesn't hurt to try and be as accurate as you can. So what we'll do is we'll drop that through, and as long as it moves and doesn't break out of the knuckle piece, we can consider that we're good for this part. There we go, so it closes okay, and it opens a little bit. A couple of sticky bits at the back here, but we're going to sort out those just now. So on the whole, you can see it's not too difficult to get the beginnings. We're rather stiff, but working articulation. Leave that bit on because we're going to use that as a handle in the next film.